edition of Ground Pass. Hi everyone, this is Anastasia coming to you with a mini pod. Nick is not here today, but we will be back to regularly scheduled programming on the weekend. So all you have is me, and we're going to be catching up on the Olympics and also the Mubadala Citi DC Open, which is also happening at the same time, and Ground Pass is on site for the Citi Open. But let's start with where all the eyes are for the most part, and that is at the Paris Olympics 2024. And what a tournament it has been so far. We've had tons of matches, tons of exciting storylines, and I'm here to catch you up on all the things that have been going on at the Olympics thus far. So where to start? Well, let's start with the withdrawals. There have been a fair bit of withdrawals at the Olympics. You know, we had Yannick Sinner withdrawing late. We had Elena Rybakina withdrawing. And throughout the tournament, we've also had a few players withdraw for sickness, before the matches actually started. We had Kalinina withdraw with sickness. We also had Struff, who actually withdrew today with an injury. So there's been a few bit of withdrawals, but for the most part, I think what has struck me is what happens when a singles player withdraws. Now, usually you either have just a walkover if it's in a tournament, or for example, if it happens before the tournament starts, maybe you get a lucky loser into the draw who is a singles player. So it's not that jarring. But what we've had in the Olympics is the players who replace singles players are doubles players, or pretty much whoever is around, it seems like, in the Olympic Village. But because of this, we had a situation where for Novak Djokovic's first round match, he got to play Matt Ebden, who is a doubles player who hasn't played singles, and I don't think even has a singles ranking currently. I don't think he's played singles in about 2 years, and it turned out to be a 6-love, 6-1 win for Novak. And we've had a couple of those, so it's been interesting. I wonder if the Olympic Committee or the ITF will look into how, for the next Olympics, if this happens again, how players are replaced, because it seems that it should really be the next available singles player that gets added into the draw. But it's been an interesting process, kind of trying to figure out how they pick who replace players who have to withdraw for whatever reason it might be. So that's definitely something that's been going on. And, there've been some really great storylines. One that we highlighted on our social media channels was Benjamin Hassan from Lebanon. He was entered into the draw through what is called the universality place, which is basically what the Olympics does for country. It's like a wild card that they give to athletes from underrepresented nations. And he got it. He doesn't play at all actually on the main tour, but for the Olympics he got this place, and he drew Chris Eubanks in his very first match, and he won. I mean, it's such a great story to not only be playing at the Olympics, first tennis player ever from Lebanon to play at the Olympics, and he won his first match. So that was a really great story, definitely someone to learn. And who knows, hopefully this kind of spurs him on. It's a good win over a top 100 player. I think actually Chris Eubanks has dropped out of the top 100, but still a player who only last year was, getting to the quarterfinals, semifinals of Wimbledon. So definitely someone who has a game, and maybe this will inspire him to kind of try to get into the main tour. So Benjamin Hassan was a really great story so far from the Olympics. Had a bit of upsets today. Coco Gauff and Jasmine Paolini are out of the singles tournament. They are still playing doubles. That's the thing about the Olympics. A lot of players are in doubles or mixed doubles. So there are a few chances for them to still get medals at the tournament. And hopefully, Jasmine Paolini and Coco Gauff can go further in their tournaments so far. Donna Vekic was the one who kicked out Coco Gauff, and she's currently having quite the moment after getting to the semifinals of Wimbledon. She's playing really well here at the Olympics, which is held at Roland Garros. Coco Gauff is playing in the doubles. She just won her, she lost her match today in singles, but won the mixed doubles with Taylor Fritz. Taylor Fritz is also having quite a great tournament. On the schedule tomorrow, he's listed 3 times to play his singles, doubles, and mixed doubles matches. So the Olympic can get pretty hectic for athletes who are in multiple draws. But he seems to be doing fine, holding up fine so far. So let's see how he goes tomorrow when he has to play. If he wins in straight sets, about 6 sets of tennis. But let's see how it goes for him. You know, we have our usual suspects, which is crazy to call Carlos Alcaraz at this point in his young life a usual suspect. But Carlos Alcaraz and Iga Swiatek are making their way through the draw comfortably so far. We'll see how they keep going. But I have to say, the Olympics has been all about the men's doubles tournament, which is actually nice to see. It's nice to see that doubles is getting the highlight that it well deserves with the participation of Nadalcaraz and what I am now calling Dandy, which is the combination of Dan Evans and Andy Murray. I got that little sort of name from an X account called the Other Murray Brother, which is run by a comedian, and it's actually really funny. But Dan Evans and Andy Murray having quite the run at the Olympics. Who knew? This is Andy Murray's last professional tournament. And, I don't think he came in with a lot of momentum. I don't think he was expected to go far if, past his first round match at all. But here he is, won his match today, and he's now in the quarterfinals of the Olympics. It's really, really great to see. And Nadalcaraz has been such a joy to watch. I think a lot of fans were really hoping that this was a thing that was going to happen, and we weren't sure. Nadal last minute seemed to get an injury, and we didn't know if this was actually something that would happen, but it has, and it has delivered. The very first match Nadal and Alcaraz played, Alcaraz was so nervous, which is so strange to see because he's at this point, um, a fort. Wow, I just had to do the math in my head. But Carlos Alcaraz has won 4 Grand Slams. Crazy. Anyway, 4-time, Grand Slam winner Carlos Alcaraz was so nervous playing his first doubles match with Rafa Nadal. It was very clear that this is not his forte. He doesn't play doubles much. He has played before, actually, with Rafa's old teammate. He played with Mark Lopez, I think a couple of years ago at the Madrid Open, but hasn't really played since or much really. And you could tell. But if Carlos is anything, he's a really fast learner, and by his next match today was just perfect. They've had some pretty tough opponents, so it's great to see that they've gotten through their 2 first matches so far so well, so far so good, and excited to see how far they can get in this tournament. So that's really been the Olympics thus far. It's been really exciting. Matches go on all the way till the weekend when we should be having the final. So if you are in the US, you're watching the Olympics on Peacock. In the UK, it's on the BBC, or also Discovery Plus has the Olympics as well. I think with Discovery Plus, you have more choice of what matches you want to watch, kind of like Peacock, where you can decide which ones you want to watch versus just watching it on terrestrial television. So yeah, really, really, really exciting Olympics thus far. But what is also happening is the Mubadala Citi DC Open. And it's funny because this period, I think we were talking about this in our last episode, it really does feel like Grand Slam tennis, but on two different continents. And the tennis doesn't stop. The Olympics tennis in the States starts around at 6 a.m. on the East Coast. And currently it's like 10:30 p.m. on the East Coast. And tennis at the Citi Open in DC is still happening. So that is a lot of tennis stretched out through the whole day. So it's been a lot to keep up on. Brain is a little fried, but it's also been fun to watch and actually be on the ground in DC for the Citi Open. If you've been paying attention to our social media, you've seen photos I've posted to our Instagram and our X and Threads account. So follow us there for the latest updates from the grounds at the DC Open. And you might also seen we have started a new series. It's called Meet the Player or Meet the Players, and the second one will make sense to you in a few minutes. But first episode of Beat the Player was us talking to Matteo Bellucci. And if you're wondering, where have I heard that name before? It's because we talked about him at Wimbledon when he qualified for the main draw of Wimbledon and drew Ben Shelton in his first round match. He didn't win the match, but he took it to 5 sets and he was leading by 2 sets in the beginning. Something that mirrored a little bit his French Open run where he met Francis Tiafoe in the first round, and that also went to 5 sets. So he's just been a player to watch. He's Italian, so he's part of the new crop of Italians, and he was at the Atlanta Open, where he lost his match at the Atlanta Open sometime around 1 a.m. in the morning, and somehow had to make it to DC to play that same afternoon his first round qualifying match. The life of a tennis player is crazy, but he did it. He won, and then he won his second qualifying match, and then he got into the main draw, and he won his first match in the main draw. So Matteo Bellucci is having quite the run at the DC Open, and it's really fun because when he first came in, I don't think he was, he's not widely known. He's not a big name that people would recognize, but his story spread. We were able to talk to him and interview him, which you can still find on our YouTube channel. I'll leave the link in the description of this podcast, and you can see the clips as well on our Instagram. But word spread around the tournament, and he's now just kind of become, a little bit of a story. I hear in the crowd sometimes people talk about, oh, he didn't sleep on his way, which he didn't. He didn't sleep on the day he had to travel from Atlanta to DC. So life of a tennis player is really tough, and they really have to work on their recovery. So it was great talking to him, great getting to know him, and I hope he's a player that through our channel you can get to know, follow throughout the season. His goal is to try and get into the top 100 at least by the end of the year. So let's see how he does. And, it's never just this season. It would be really lovely to see what he does in the seasons to come. But yeah, so we've been at the City Open now in DC since Saturday actually. What is today? So much tennis going on and I can't remember what day it is, but the City DC Open, Mubadala City DC Open. Sometimes these tournaments, the names are, quite chaotic, but it's a really intimate, small tournament. It is a joint ATP and WTA event, both at the 500 level. The players the players that won last year were Coco Gauff and Dan Evans, and you might remember Coco Gauff's win because her win last year in DC was kind of the beginning of her US swing run to winning the US Open. So it was a very big moment for her last year to start with a win at the DC Open. She's obviously not playing this year. She is at the Olympics, but there are tons of players here. The number one seed for this draw is Andre Rublev. So Andre Rublev is playing here. Francis Tiafoe, Ben Shelton, Jerry Shang, Denis Shapovalov. We've already talked of Matteo Bellucci, who got into the main draw, and Riley Opelka, who is making his return to tennis after not playing for about 2 years. On the women's side, we've got the number one seed here, Rina Sabalenka. We've got Ons Jabeur. Paula Badosa is also playing here. Peyton Stearns, Taylor Townsend, who just won her first round match today, which is a really good win for her. So it is a really stacked field at the Mubadala City DC Open. Say that 5 times fast if you can. So it's a really great draw. It's a really small, intimate tournament that you can circle the entire venue in about 5 minutes. It's sort of anchored in the middle by a main stadium, and then it's surrounded by smaller courts and practice courts as well. There's also this really great like food hall, which has been awesome in the heat of the last few days, where you can kind of escape to the air conditioning and kind of cool down a bit before you go back out into the sun and humidity to watch awesome, awesome tennis matches. I also really love the intimacy of this event and it being so small. In my time just walking around the grounds, you constantly bump into players. It is actually quite remarkable just walking the grounds. And I think as a fan, it's a great experience. It's a great way to sort of ask for an autograph or take a photo with players. It seems like a very sort of casual, chill environment that you might not get in a big tournament like Indian Wells or, the US Open or even Miami Open. This is definitely a more sort of smaller, intimate event, but that is still very, very well attended. And a little word on Dan Evans. Dan Evans is currently at the Olympics, not at the City Open. So he has lost all of the points that he earned from last year, and he's not defending any of those points, which means because of that, his ranking is actually going to drop so far out of the 150. He's going to be ranked around 170, which is really tough for a singles player. That kind of puts you out of direct entry to most tournaments, and you kind of have to go back to working the sort of qualifying grind and hoping for wild cards and all of that. Now, he hasn't been in good form lately, so I'm not saying that he would have defended those points at the City Open, but it's interesting that he made that choice to go to the Olympics, and mainly it was to play with Andy Murray, to be his doubles partner at the Olympics. The Olympics means that much to him, and I think Andy Murray does as well. So just wanted to kind of give a note on Dan Evans because I think sometimes, especially with tennis, which is an individual sport, it can be so easy to only think about yourself as the athlete. And I think what Dan Evans is doing at the Olympics is such a very selfless act, a little bit, where he's playing for his country playing with a fellow sort of teammate. Um, and I think it's actually very, very remarkable. And I just wanted to sort of give Dan Evans a little bit of a shout out. One great thing about this event too, it also involves doubles. So it's not only singles, it also doubles. And this year, the current Wimbledon men's doubles champions, Henry Patton and Harry Hilo-Vera, are participating in the tournament. And I was able to interview both of them for our new series, Meet the Players. And it was really great talking to them about their win, you know, their history, how they met, and their hopes for the doubles game. Because you might have heard we had a doubles episode just before the Madrid Open with Will Buchek, which we really should do kind of an update how things are going, because there's been a lot of little innovations throughout the doubles tour. Some have worked, some haven't, and they keep trialing new things this year in order to find ways to sort of invigorate the doubles game. And it was really nice talking to Henry and Harry about it. And, they were participating in a new, at least new for tennis. I think this is something that already exists in other sports, but the tennis players in the doubles tournament for the City Open are going to be mic'd, the ones that opt in to do it. And for Harry and Henry's first match, Harry was mic'd up, and it was actually kind of interesting. I didn't know how it was going to work, but I actually liked it, and it wasn't too overwhelming. And maybe that's just Harry and how he kind of speaks during matches, but it wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't sort of like talking constantly. So you could still watch the point and, pay attention to that. But it was really great just hearing their little, Harry is very encouraging. So it was really nice having him encourage Henry throughout the match, and just listening to their calls and, sort of the strategy they had, which, just for me made me feel like, oh, I've got to learn more about sort of the codes and the double calls and things like that. So we need to have Will back on, and maybe he can give us a little bit of insight into that, because he knows all about the doubles. So if you are listening to this podcast, the episode of Meet the Players with Henry or Harry is already out. You can watch it on our YouTube channel. I will leave the link below to our YouTube channel in the description of this podcast. And if you're liking what we're doing, please like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really does help the channel as I am learning. So I always used to think, why are they're always like and subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe. But it really does help the channel. So if you like what we're doing, leave us a review on the podcast app that you're listening to. It really helps if it's on Apple Podcasts as well. Leave us a note so we can read it and see what you like and what we can improve and get better at. But yeah, it's been really, really awesome bringing you all this fun tennis content, and we want to keep doing it. And with your help and your support, we can totally keep going. Super excited for the rest of the Olympics. Basically the beginning of the US swing at the DC Open, and can't wait till the big, big kahuna of a tournament, which is the US Open, which is coming later this year. Can't wait. Can't wait to talk to you all about it and share all about it. And Nick will be back with me probably this weekend, where we will wrap up the Olympics, wrap up the City Open, and preview what's coming next on the never ending awesome tennis tour. Bye, guys.